Hi guys, this is Rachel Harrington, one of your nutrition coaches, and today we are going to talk about a very important subject, and that subject is stress. We're going to talk about the facts of stress and how we can fight it. Stress is one of those things that we experience on usually a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And this is something that can really be a hindrance to your transformation, to your reaching your goals. So we want to help you get it under control, identify it, and be able to move past it. So the definition of stress is this. It's the emotional strain and tension resulting from adverse or very demanding circumstances. Stress is something that can be good, but that also, whenever it's experienced on a chronic, seemingly never-ending basis, it can really be harmful to your body, to your mental state, to your relationships, all these different things. And we're going to address that today. But like I said, it's emotional strain, it's tension. Whenever there's things in your life that are super demanding or that are contrary to what you're wanting to do in life. So let's move forward. So stress, like I said, is a huge factor whenever it comes to making and maintaining a change. Stress can derail you. It's something that can make you feel heavy and just depressed, and it can get you super off track. It can distract you. And this is something that, like I said, is something that we're going to deal with, whether it's from our job, our relationships, our environment, whatever it is. And we need to be able to identify it and know that this is something that's coming or that we have in our life. So that way we can move forward, we can move past it, and that way we can live in our transformation and actually accomplish our goals. So here's just some facts about stress. So number one, we all face it, whether, like I said, it's from our jobs, it's something like our relationships, our mental state, our emotional, physical, environmental state, and our existential. So all these things that I just named, A through F, are actually different compartments of health. So whenever we think of health, we really just think about nutrition, or we think about fitness, but there's actually other different compartments of it that we don't take into account whenever we're thinking about, are we healthy? So like relational health. Relational health is something like the relationships in your life, like your husband and wife, or boyfriend, girlfriend, coworkers, or if you have a lack of close relationships. Mental, the mental compartment of health would be things like, maybe there's a problem in your life and you don't know how to solve it, but you want to solve it. That's a mental health also. Emotional health would be feelings about or towards something, like how you feel towards an experience or something that's going on around you. And then physical health would be things like, maybe if you have different injuries or you're eating, you're exercising. That's what like I said, we typically think of whenever we think of health. And then your environmental health, that could be job, your school, your home life, and existential health. That would be like your purpose and knowing why you are even in the world, like why you exist. So whenever these different compartments of health are off, or whenever they're not being fulfilled or they're missing, this can lead to stress. So like I said, stress is not just from our job or our home. It can be all these other different things. So let's remember that as we go through this. So stress is meant to be dealt with and not ignored. And we can't be too busy to deal with it. So especially us as Americans, we like to be tough, or we like to think that just stress, or like major stress or distress, is actually normal, and it's not. Distress is not normal. Distress leads you into making poor choices, making bad habits out of your daily life. And if it's not dealt with and it's ignored, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And that leads to you not being able to process your nutrients properly as you eat, your energy levels, your sleep patterns. All these things can be thrown off because of stress. So like if we don't deal with it, like I said, it can just snowball into something major down the road. It might not be in the next month or two, but it could be in the next few months or even a year. And we don't want to have that. Especially whenever you're trying to make a change, you don't want to have anything extra in your way, because you're already paving the way for something different. You're making new habits, you're doing new things. And whenever stress is still part of your life, it's going to make it so much harder to accomplish your goals. So like I said, we can't be too busy to deal with it. And stress can lead to the birth of bad habits, because whenever we're stressed, we just want to feel better. We want to feel better right now. So a lot of times we emotionally eat, we drink, we smoke, we can possibly even do drugs. We can binge eat, or even bulimia. We could make ourselves sick, and we can have extreme food cravings. So whenever if we don't deal with stress, we're going to deal with it in the best way that our body knows how, and that's usually through food. And it's going to be a lot of food, or it's going to be restricting ourselves with food. So it can go south pretty quick if we don't deal with this. So chronic stress leads to high levels of cortisol in your body. So what is cortisol? So cortisol is actually a stress hormone, and it's in response to chronic stress. So like if you're stressed, like an acute stress, which just means, it's short-term, it's short-lived, that cortisol hormone is not going to be as high, and it's not going to be pulsing through your body on a consistent basis. But if you are chronically stressed, which is the things we just talked about, it can throw things out of whack. So cortisol, whenever it's in its regular state, or whenever it's regulated properly, it controls blood pressure, inflammation, your wake and sleep cycle, and your blood sugar. So like here, this little paragraph, it says, whenever you're under constant stress, your alarm system, which is your cortisol, it stays on. So like, just imagine if you're at school, if you're at work, and you hear the beep, 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 you hear that all the time. That's basically what your body's doing. It's like it is stressed to the max, and it disrupts your body's normal and typical functions, and it can cause health issues, which actually can bleed over into your everyday life, your relationships, and your mental state, which are all different compartments of health. So from having this chronic stress in your life, it can turn into a physical problem. Like it's an outside issue. The stress can be an outside issue, but if it's not dealt with properly, it can become an internal and a body function issue. So like I said, unresolved stress, which is high cortisol levels, can result in different physical ailments. And these things can manifest themselves in different ways, like headaches or GI issues. You're having diarrhea, you're being constipated because your food's not digested properly. Your skin is breaking out, you're gaining weight, maybe your vision is blurred, you're feeling sick or nauseated. You're anxious all the time, so you're having a rapid heartbeat, having high blood pressure and tight chest or chest pain, or just unexplained aches and pains and difficulty remembering things. And the last one is depression, because this stress is constantly in your life. It's not going anywhere. It's not, you feel awful. So it's going to lead to depression. So how we can fight this? We can fight this through awareness. And that's just where you honestly and specifically identify different circumstances. So you're looking at your life and you're like, wow, what's going on here? What am I trying to accomplish? And what are the demanding circumstances that are around me? And it's getting those things, and it's really being honest with yourself. And even you can even write it out. You could talk to somebody, but it's identifying them, and it's not sweeping them under the rug. Because like I said, as Americans, I think that's what we like to do, is just be like, oh, it's not a big deal. I'll deal with it later, deal with it later, deal with it later. And then 3 months later, it's like, why am I feeling sick? Why do I have GI issues? And it's like, wow, it's because I haven't dealt with this stress. And with evaluation, it's like, can I do without this stressful thing in my life? If the answer is yes, then great, get rid of it and the demanding circumstances. But sometimes the answer is no. And it's like, okay, how can I get around this? How can I live with this stressor in my life? Say if your stressor is your job, you got to have a job. You can't just get rid of your job. Or at least most people can't. How can I deal with this better? What can I do? What can I do to make this stressor not as stressful? What game plan can I make up here? Like I said, strategy. That is where you come up with a plan to deal with that stressor. And it's like, okay, whenever I have this strategy, then I have to actually execute. How can I consistently follow my plan of attack in making this stressor either A, go away, or B, how can I deal with it in a better way, in a healthier way? So instead of me emotionally eating in response to this stressor, can I maybe meal prep and bring food with me and not be at the mercy of whatever's going on around me in that specific circumstance? So we need to be aware, we need to evaluate the stressor, we need to come up with a strategy, and then we need to execute that strategy. And then by executing your strategy, you can be made free from stress. So that's what we like to teach here at Tasted Sea Nutrition is whenever you have goals, you have to come up with a game plan in order to get there. And knowing what hindrances or what things could possibly be in your way whenever it's time for you to start moving and getting into the direction of your goals, executing is so huge. You have to do what you say that you were going to do, and you have to set out and know in your mind, okay, things are going to come up. However, I know that this is what's going to happen. So I need to have a plan B. And that's whenever you come up with your strategy, and that way you can be made free from stress. And chronic stress, especially because, like I said, that's really going to hinder you whenever you are on your way to reaching your goals and living in your change and living in your transformation. Not saying that you can be, you know, avoid everything. However, it's dealing with it, making your strategy, being aware, and executing what you plan to do.